Okay, guys, we have a completely new lesson today, which might is not very difficult at all. Okay, so if you listen to Mrs. McCullough, you would have your book open to page 743. So you can see it there on the screen as well, but I need you to follow along if you think that the book is easier for you to follow along. But once in a while, you look on the screen because I will be pointing and writing a few things. So, um, so here we can read along. If you're going to read along with me or read along with your eyes, look in your book or look on the screen. We're obviously going to learn about data in a line plot. Now, a line plot is just that. Okay, so don't get, oh no, what's that? It is just a line that has different information that you are going to need for measurements. Okay, so it says here you can represent measurement data for fractions of a unit in a line plot. The line plot's number line will look like a ruler. So just like I said, see here, if you look at your ruler, it looks exactly like that. So you're going to see the benefit of knowing how to do a line plot. Okay. So obviously, if we read our example one, it says the science room has a collection of bugs. Each bug's length is measured to the nearest eighth of an inch. Make a line plot to represent the data. So the data is just another way of saying it's the information that you collected. So that's what data means. So here's your data. All right. So you might actually you know that it's asking you, right, to represent each bug to the nearest eighth. So in your line plot, you know that over 8 is your, okay, so over 8, sorry. So over 8 will be your denominator because it's telling you to the nearest 8. So you know that your one whole will be 8 eighths. Okay, so it's done already for you. So it's 0, 1 eighth, 2 eighths, 3 eighths, 4 eighths, 5 eighths, 6 eighths, 7 eighths, 8 eighths. So according to the data that this kid or this book is representing, there are two bugs that measures 2 eighths of an inch. So that's why there's two X's here, because when you look at it, there's two bugs. You see that in your book, okay? Or even here very slightly. So I'm not going to do X's there because it's already done for you. So there's one that's 3 eighths of an inch long. There's two that's 4 eighths of an inch long. There's six that's 5 eighths of an inch long, and so on and so forth. So there's only one bug that is 8 eighths, or that is our whole. Okay. So if you go to the next page, I'm going to erase this first. So go to the next page, turn over, or just follow along in the book on the screen. Okay. So here we're going to start. We're going to read our problem. So example 2. So now remember, it says here, refer to example 1. Find the difference in length between the longest and the shortest bug. So if you look back in your data, okay, you're going to say, oh, I got to copy down what my shortest bug is and what my longest bug is. So I know that my shortest bug is 2 eighths and my longest bug is 8 eighths. So I have that in my head, okay? So I'm going to go back to my problem here. So it's asking me to find the difference in length between the longest and the shortest bug, okay? So difference, you always subtract. Remember what we talked in class? If it's asking for the difference, the operation that you need, the math operation that you need to do is subtraction. So to find the difference between the longest and shortest bug, subtract the shortest length from the longest length. So we already said that our longest length was 8/8 and the shortest one is 2/8. So now we're going to subtract 8 minus 2 is 6/8. Now, why is that 3/4? Because we always say that we simplify. And how do we simplify? What's the common factor here? I'm going to divide it by 2. I'm going to divide it by what I do on the top, I do in the bottom. So my answer is 3/4. So my answer should be the difference between the longest and the shortest bug in the collection is 3/4 of an inch. Okay, pretty simple. So now let's go to our next problem. Okay, so it says here the tally chart, which is this is our data again because this is the collection of information represents the widths of buttons collected by Bella's mother. Represent this data in a line plot. So if since you're gonna see it in your book, okay, if you see it in your book, you know that again, our line plot has 8 divisions. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll this down. It's divided by 1/8. Okay, because it says represents the widths of bonds collected by Bellasmore represent this data. So here is the information. All right. So if you were going to write your plot here, so there are 6 buttons that is 1/8 of an inch. So obviously you're gonna find your 1/8 plot, and then you're going to write your excess. Okay. So I have 8. So I'm going to draw, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Super easy. 3/8 of an inch, I have 3 buttons. That's 3/8 of an inch. So 1, 2, 3. I have 1 that's 4/8. I have 2 that's 5/8. And I have 4 that's 7/8. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I've plotted my information, my data over here. So here is the problem that it's asking me to solve. Okay, so here is where your line plot will come in handy. Okay, so suppose the buttons that were 3/8 of an inch wide were laid in a row touching, how far would the row extend? Okay, so you know what? I think I'm gonna draw that just to make sure that I understand the problem. So it's telling me that if I grab my buttons and laid it side by side, and each button is 3/8 of an inch, okay? So it's because it's asking me 3/8 of an inch wide were laid in a row touching. So I'm going to lay my 3 buttons touching each other, and each button is 3/8. 3/8, yes. I don't know why I wrote 4. So now that's it, right? That's the picture in my head that I'm going to do. How far would the row extend? So it's asking me what is the length of 3 buttons laid side by side if each button is 3/8 of an inch. So obviously I'm going to add, okay? So I'm going to add 3/8 plus 3/8 plus 3/8. So I'm going to add. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9/8 of an inch. Now, what do we do? Because this is an improper fraction, you know that you need to make this into a mixed number. Okay, so you need to, if the numerator is bigger than your denominator, remember that's what an improper fraction is. So now, in order for me to know how far that row extends, I'm going to change this into, I'm going to divide 9 divided by 8. So obviously we know that how many times can 8 get into 9? It's only 1 time, and then 8, and my remainder, so 1 and 1/8. So there's my answer. So how far the row extends? It will extend 1 and 1/8 inches. So if I were to side by side do this three buttons, I add it. And then if it's an improper fraction, I'm going to divide it. And then that would be my answer. Okay, so let's say, okay, I'm gonna erase this. I'm gonna pause and erase. Okay, so let's continue. Let's continue. Okay, so for example, here is my other line plot again. Okay, so I made you a line plot. And let's say, let's pretend this is the length of a flower pet. Well, I said button sizes. So let's stick with button sizes. So let's say there's 2 there, and there's 3 there, there's 4, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's pretend that's our line plot. So if it's telling me, okay, so what would the length be if I put um, the buttons that are 2/8 in length side by side? What would the measurement be? So in my head, I'm gonna picture it. Okay, I have, actually I'll make that 4. So I have 4 buttons that are 2/8 of an inch. Though that's the width. So I'm going to 2/8, 2/8, 2/8. That's just in my head. So now I know that it wants me to know how long this would be if I had to measure it. So obviously I'm going to add 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 over 8. So 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 over 8 is my answer, or 1. So the length would be 1 inch. Okay, so let's pretend. Okay, let me erase that. I'm going to pause it. Okay, so I have a problem here. Okay, so here's my line plot again, and this is another one, and it's dandelion sizes. So I have one dandelion that's 1/8 of an inch. I have 2 dandelions that's 4/8 of an inch, and I have 3 dandelions that's 6/8 of an inch, and I have one dandelion that's 1 inch. Or if I want to represent that as a fraction, that would be my, oops, sorry, that would be my 8/8. Okay. All right. So now my problem is that, just listen and follow along, okay? So my problem is that I want you to measure the dandelions that are 6/8 of an inch. And if you put that side by side, I want you to measure or tell me the measurement that it's going to be. So this is, so what I'm trying to say, guys, is that you don't have to have a ruler basically to measure it, because you already collected the data. So this is why line plot is important, because you've already collected the data, you've already measured it, and it's already ready for you. So it's easier for you to add or know what the sizes are without measuring and then adding. So it's just a faster way for you to know what the measurement is if you've collected the data ahead of time and plotted it in a line plot. Okay, so your problem is to measure all the dandelions that are 6/8 of an inch. So I have 3. So 1, 2, 3. So now it's telling me how long this would be. So I know that one dandelion is 6/8 of an inch. So obviously I'm going to add it 3 times, because I have 3 dandelions with that measurement. So I'm going to add 6 plus 6 plus 6 over 8. So 6 plus 6 plus 6, or 6 times 3, is 18 over 8. So am I going to stop there? No, because this is an improper fraction. So my numerator is bigger than my denominator, so I need to make that into a proper fraction. And how will I do that? I am going to divide 18 divided by 8. So how many times, okay, I'm going to erase that. So how many times will 8 go into 18? So obviously, 2 times. So 2 times 8 is 16. Then I'm going to subtract 8 minus 2, 2. So there's my remainder. So my answer is 2 and 2 eighths. Oh, but do I stop there? Okay, if you can spot it and you know your multiplication facts, you know that you can still simplify to eighths because look, they are not prime numbers. So you know that the common, okay, don't forget your whole here. So you know you're going to do 2 eighths. So I can divide it. The common factor would be 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So my final answer is the length of 3 dandelions with 6/8 of an inch measurement, the total distance would be 2.5 inches long. Okay? So if that's so comment, tell me if you get it, and I know you guys are super smart, so I know that you get it. But if you have a problem, please ask me the question. Okay, try not to ask your parents. You can just come to me, write a comment, and then I'm going to make a find a way somehow to be able to help you. Okay, so follow your instructions, go back to your classwork, go back to this lesson again if you need it, but I'm pretty sure that you guys already get it. Okay, so bye guys.